So pretty normal November as far as how all the numbers shook out for the Denver Metro statistics. Here is your December market update for the Denver Metro housing market. So not to anyone's surprise, traffic is down as far as showings and prices are down a little bit. They were up last month, which is one of the weird things I really talked about as far as how much of a bump they got, especially going into an election. And so our average price for the 7-county Denver Metro, I'm looking at the South Metro Denver Realtor Association data set. That's a 7-county Denver Metro, so it doesn't include Boulder and Weld and a bunch of those that are further away. So for our average price point, we went from $693 down to $684, and this is for all residential housing. That includes condos, townhomes, single family. And median went from $589 down to $580. So not quite as low as it was in September, because as I mentioned last month, this time of year is when savvier buyers tend to pick up larger properties. And here's where I show that to y'all. So price per square foot goes down, but it doesn't go down quite as much as the price does as far as incrementally. And that shows that people are spending more on those houses versus just negotiating the prices down a little bit. They're buying more expensive, larger homes, but they are still negotiating the price on that. So this is my typical Q4 market update, which means I'm going to tell you now is your opportunity over the next 1 to 2 months, really the next 6 weeks, because that's when things are going to bottom out for the year. That's normal. That's typical. People don't like looking for houses while they're going to visit family between Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of your holidays, right? A lot of people have plans and they put their house hunting plans on hold. I met with some buyers last week looking to buy their first place. They were wanting to do some down payment assistance programs. And I let them know, I said, hey, that's awesome. There's definitely some programs out there for y'all. In a more aggressive spring market, if there's any competition, this may not be as competitive and it's going to be a lot harder to buy a home. And you may be bidding on places and losing and all of that. Not saying it's a guarantee, just saying it's possible. So if you're wanting to negotiate credits, if you're wanting to buy with down payment assistance, if you are not as financially able to put as much money into the house as some other buyers, Q3, Q4 is a great time to buy. And they said, cool, we're traveling for Thanksgiving, we're traveling half of December. So we're going to hold off. We're going to save some more money. We have a game plan now. We know what our target is, and we're going to shoot for Q3, Q4 of next year. I said, awesome. That's great. Happy to make a game plan for whatever makes sense for you in your situation, right? So you can see price per square foot's down a little bit. And like I said, every year this time of year, I'm always talking about now is your opportunity to grab something and negotiate some credits. I have another buyer under contract on an entry-level condo. We're already pretty much maxed out on the credits the seller can give her. We negotiated off the price. Now some other stuff came up in inspection that we're negotiating the seller to handle. So that kind of leverage we don't have in a competitive market, okay? We also don't have the time to work through a lot of these things. Sellers may not give us the time if there's other buyers ready, willing, and able to go purchase. So you can see we bottom out not only on price per square foot, we typically bottom out in November, December. And I'm going to go back a little bit further just so y'all can see what I'm talking about. This is normal seasonally, even with the craziness we had through 20 through 22. You can see on a normal seasonal type market, I'm always referring back to kind of 2015 through 2019 or so, bottomed out in November of 2019 as far as dollar square foot. 2018 was January. That's December shoppers. Okay. November statistics are based on October shoppers because those were shopping in October, getting under contract, then and closing in November. So December here, actually we were a little lower in the late summer there. But it's very normal. You see these ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs, and the downs are usually November, December, January stats because they're October, November, December shoppers. Okay. So same for prices. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, if you want leverage, if you want to negotiate on price, if you want to have the seller fix stuff, come shop in November and December. Okay. It's your best opportunity to get some leverage. So for sellers, if you are selling distressed property, dated property, estate properties, I have another estate client right now, and we're doing the clean out of the property right now. And I said, hey, this is a great time to sell. Investors love to buy properties in November, December, January. So that gives them a month or two to flip it and to do all of their cosmetic improvements and then list it in February, March, and April in the height of the spring market. So for sellers that are looking to do that, now's a great time. I have another I'll get to new listings in a minute. I have another client that I was just talking to on the phone today with an investment property, and he says, hey, do I sell it? I said, well, if you want to sell it, between tenants, now's a great time because that's when investors are looking. And if you decide you don't want to sell and you want to rent it, most buyers, owner occupant buyers, as well as tenants looking to move into rentals are going to want to move in the spring. So you kind of have the best of both worlds if you want to try that out. So definitely consider, if you're looking to buy, if you're able to do it sooner and kind of get in before things pick up for the spring. I always have a handful of buyers that take me up on that in Q3 and Q4, and it really works to their advantage. So regarding new listings, because I said I was going to come back to that. This is going to be a quick update, guys, because I've got to run to another appointment, but I wanted to get this out for y'all earlier in the month. So we are down to 2,600 new listings for November. Last year, about the same, 2,600 and change. Previous to that, 2,600 and change. So historically, that's a pretty low inventory number for us for new listings for the month. Back in those, cyclical, seasonal, more predictable cycles in 2015 through 2019, we were running 28 to 3,400. So 32, in November, 3,500. I think we were, 34. I think we shook around 36. 3,500 and change here. So we are still lower on new listings, but when you're looking at months of supply, we are still historically higher, which gives buyers more leverage. Okay. There's less new things to pick from, but there's also less demand because of the rates, because of the election, because of uncertainty, because of all those things. So even though the election, we had more activity going into it than I was expecting, and people sat on their hands for November, they just didn't in October. They kind of had this uptick in October because we had a slow late summer. So even though the elections passed, we're still going to be slow on activity. And I'm not sure how long it's going to take to pick up. I was expecting pretty kind of mid-December to early January. We'll see how that works out in next month's numbers, or if it's going to be kind of a late spring again like it was last year. But even with less new listings, we still have significant inventory, still more than we did in the fall or the summer of anything prior to 2024, back up until about 2013, right? So there's less options, but there's also less buyers out there. So for sellers, that means pricing, presentation, positioning your property better than the competition, offering credits or incentives that helps buyers overcome those higher payments, the higher interest rates, higher closing costs, things like that. So seller credits are a great way when there is equity and value in the property. Seller credits are a great way to help buyers, maybe more than they realize they need. Okay. Showings traffic is down. I mean, guys, when was the last time we saw 4.7 showings per listing per month? So COVID, that took a tank. And October 2019. Other than that, we have had consistently more showings per month than right now until you go back to 2013. Pretty slow activity out there. So when my people are reaching out to me about selling, I'm having these conversations of, hey, what's your goal? What's your timeline? Pros and cons of doing it now versus waiting. For buyers, this is leverage. And it's more leverage than we typically have when I have this conversation in Q3 and Q4 over the last 10 years. So take advantage of the opportunity. Go do some negotiating. I love doing that. It's a lot of fun. And it's also fun for buyers to be able to have leverage to negotiate, which, as you can see, given our activity and our inventory levels historically over the last decade, there hasn't been a lot of opportunity to do that. So it's really nice to be able to help buyers get into the market, even though there's so many other barriers. There's definitely some we can negotiate up front. So take advantage of the leverage. Active listing, I want to show, so new listings I showed you are definitely down. Active listings, we still have quite a few. That's what's leading to that months of supply number. And hey, you go into the grocery store, they're not restocking very often because there's not many people buying a lot of things. So we still have some active listings, which is leading to the days on market creeping up. So this is our average, which given the demand situation isn't as long as I would expect when you're looking back at the last couple of years and kind of what the inventory and the showing activity was there. But it is going to get slower for the next month for sure. So that's average days on market is in the 40s, median days is 28. I've just looked at a listing that had 800 plus days, which is very unusual, but even 200, 6 to 9 to 12 months on the market. It's really unheard of for the last decade, but for certain properties, it's coming up, and it's properties that are either priced too high, not positioned well, not presented well, or they have issues with buyers being able to purchase them because of warrantability issues with the HOA or cost to get in or things like that. So lots of different things out there right now. As I mentioned, this is going to be a pretty quick one. Closed listings as far as actual activity. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit just because there's a lot of data. So closed listings was down for November, which is October shoppers. We had that pickup in September activity, which showed in October numbers. October shoppers were down a little bit. So that's showing in November closings. This I fully expect to go way, way, way down for this December and January, just because not that many people are shopping right now, as I mentioned, which means less closings over the next couple of months. So hopefully that was helpful. I'm trying to give y'all perspective of when to take action, when to game plan, what makes most sense for your situation. If you want some one-on-one recommendations for that, you can reach out to me down below. You can book an appointment right off my calendar. Now is a great time that I'm doing buyer consults, seller consults, because we can make a game plan to take action sooner or later, depending on your situation and your goals. So it's a really, really, really good time to do some planning on what strategically makes the most sense for you in your situation. But anyway, hopefully that was helpful. Thanks so much for the time, and I'll see you next month on the market update.